Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the Airsoft Airbus tutorial, and we are on our climb out from Alicante. So, we passed 6,000 feet, we're going to switch to standard by right clicking, there you go, switch to standard, and our altitude has shifted slightly, and we're going to do, and yep, so that's it. We switched to 6,000 feet now, and we're going to climb up to 10,000 feet. As you can see, we've got speed restriction of 250 knots, and then we'll climb up to probably around 320 and slowly decelerate as we get higher in altitude. Flight time today is around 2 hours and 20 minutes up to Gatwick, and I will come back when we are on descent. I just thought I'd show you that right there, just in case you didn't know how to switch to standard. That's how you do it. Right click, it says on the little knob there, and yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah, you might have noticed some things different about the weather, and you just might have noticed. It's just because my sim froze on the landing, so it basically messed it all up, and it basically put it down as a crash landing, which was annoying. So I've had to restart, and I've just need to do the takeoff. I have to takeoff checklist here again. So there you go. That's it. That's basically everything. Oh, and past around 10,000 feet, you can turn your seatbelt signs off, and portable electronic devices to off. And then you see past 10,000 feet now, so speed restriction has been lifted. We'll climb up to 340 knots. And just the de-armor spoilers here. So, I'll see you all at either 35,000, 36,000 feet, when I might, no, I'll see you on approaching Todd, which is, no, sorry, yeah, Todd, top of descent. Top of descent is actually in the MCDU here. If we scroll down past all the waypoints, there you go, TD, top of descent. And that's the time we should reach it in UTC, so 3:17. The current time now in his UTC is 13:40, so just under 2 hours. And yeah, I don't know what other information it has. I think that's just speed and max speed. So you can use max speed if you want. Like, instead of knots, you can use Mach. So like 0.7 Mach, 0.8 Mach, etc. But that's it. So I will see you once we're at Todd. Okay, so we're approaching top of descent. It's been about an hour and a bit now, and so we're going to plan our descent and plan our approach. Now, we've already entered our descent information, but we're going to actually need to enter the approach information, because sometimes wind can, if it's strong, can actually change the V-speeds, because if you've got a really strong headwind, you need to fly at a faster V-speed to keep in the air. Now, V-speeds are reference speeds the aircraft uses to either take off, so we had our V1 rotate speeds, and for landing you have the same, you have VAP or VREF. Now they're similar, and they both account for wind correction, and sometimes you can get V speeds which account for runway conditions like wet or dry, but that's on more of the modern aircraft, like the 787 and A350. So to enter the information, we're going to go to the perf page, perf next again, and enter our data in here. So there's two ways you can do this. Now I've just been experimenting with a new way. Let's see if I can do it. So if you go to ATSU, AOC menu, and go for weather, click that, and then click the AIDS print, and you get an actual print of the weather information at Gatwick. So it's actually pretty cool if you don't have active sky or anything like that. This can make it look quite realistic. So here we are. We've got a weather report now. If we just left click and then go back to the captain's seat, if we left click again, we can actually bring it up. Where can we bring it up? Somewhere it should be here. Here you go. And we can just drag it over to the right here, and we can enter our information like this. So we got a QNH of 1021. We have a temperature of 8 degrees Celsius. We have a wind of 260 at 7 knots, so wind won't be a problem. And we have clouds scattered at 2,600, few at 2,600, scattered at 3,800, with a transition altitude of 6,000 feet. So that's all good now. Just close that, and yeah. So what I'm going to show you now is approach charts. So here we are in Navigraph, and you can find these charts online. Lots of them you can find online. This is just a program which gets all the charts online and simplifies them into one, and they're quite regularly updated if anything gets changed. So with the approach charts here, as you can see, we're going to be landing on runway, I think taking 26 left. Let me just check the real world flight radar, and yeah, taking 26 left. Okay, so we're going to select 26 left via Willow, which is a star standard terminal arrival route, and there you go, there's our route. So this actually visually puts into perspective 26 left's star approach. Now we are gonna follow along Mayfield waypoint, but we're actually going to continue out for a bit. So I actually want to be turning onto finals around 3,500 to 4,000 feet. That's because if we do the full star and follow it but by the book, it doesn't actually give us a lot of time to get landing configuration, and if it's your first time flying, I wouldn't recommend it. I've done it and I've messed up multiple times. You got to be quite on your game and quite quick with all your checklists if you're going to do the full star. So I just like to bring it out further. This is what they do in real life. If you ever watched ATC or have a flight radar app, you can see that the ATC directs vexors the aircraft out. It's around here where they come in for a longer approach. So yeah, so we'll be coming out here on downwind, then turning on space leg, and then onto finals around 4,000 feet. But we still need the final chart for 26 left. So if we come up here, search Echo Golf Kilo Kilo, select that, go to star, go to approach, select 26 left, final approach. There we go, and this is all our approach information we need for Gatwick's 26 left runway. So we have our important ILS frequencies up here. In Airbus, in the Aerosoft Airbus at least, it enters these frequencies automatically. In the PMG 737, and I think maybe the 777, I have to check, I haven't flown in a while, you have to enter the frequencies manually and the course, but Aerosoft enters it automatically once you enter the arrival runway. So that's a nice little feature. There's not much information you need to know as a beginner for these charts. They can be quite complicated. They are quite complicated, and the only other thing you'd possibly need is the minimums. So we're going to be doing a Cat 1 approach today, and if we come down here, we have something saying DA in brackets H, and then 396 brackets 200. What that means is decision altitude or decision height. So if we're using decision altitude, that's decision so that's minimums at mean sea level. If we're using decision height, that's minimums at airfield's elevation. So yeah, the airfield has an elevation of 196 feet, and we'll be using DH today of 200 feet as our minimums call outs. We could do 396, there's nothing wrong with it, but as you get onto the Cat 3 approaches, you can see that only DH is used, as DH is more precise and more accurate, gives you a little bit more time to think. I might do a video on the category ILS standards, but that will be in the future. So one last thing, ILS, if you didn't know, stands for Instrument Landing System, and it's basically used to get the aircraft down to the runway automatically, and you can disconnect at any point. If you're on a Cat 3B, on these approaches they're less precise, so you have to disconnect and land yourself. So if it was zero visibility, you could use Cat 3B. If one, your aircraft's equipped with it, and two, the airport is equipped with it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so back in the cockpit. Okay, so back in the cockpit here. To start descent, we're just gonna select our 5,000 feet and left click. Now, we could, if you want to select manual vertical speed descent, we right click and scroll down. So we're going to select 1800 and we're going to select a manual speed of 270 knots. So that's all the aircraft planned for the program for descent now, and we shouldn't need to do anything until the end of until we get down to around 10,000 feet, where things start to get a little bit more lively. Then 6,000 when you're passing through transition altitude. Then that altitude will probably be starting to turn on space leg. So I'll see you all at around 10 to 6,000 feet. Okay, so we are at around 10,000 feet, and we are going to begin our approach. So we are heading eastwards now on a heading of 100 degrees. We're still descending to 5,000 feet. We're just about to pass 10,000 here, so we'll get our lights turned on, and we will make sure our approach and VRF speeds, VAP speeds are set. So go to perf, next, and we got a VAP of 129. Okay, and we have radio of 200, and that's all good. So there's not much now. I'll just keep flying on this heading until I reach about 6,000 feet, then I'll turn on space leg, and then I'll turn on to finals. Okay, so I'm at 4,000 feet now, and I'm on base leg. So I'm just going to reduce speed. As we're below 10,000 feet, you want to be below 250 knots. So there you go, just slowing down now, and I'm going to get LS turned on, which switches on our ILS system. So what we're going to do now is press localizer, and when that intercepts the localizer, when the localizer comes alive, we can intercept it. So let's turn a heading of 350 now, just to get a quicker turn on to the localizer, and I'm going to get autobrake set to medium for landing, and I'm going to make sure my ground spoilers are armed, and I'm going to make sure my landing lights are set on, my seatbelt signs are set on, and my no portable electronic devices are set on. So that's all good now. We are established on base leg. Right, heading 350. Now this stage of the flight, it will get, it's actually, I'd say it's more calm than takeoff until the last minute, where I've got to explain how to land. I'd recommend landing some lighter aircraft first, so maybe a Cessna or something like that, and it comes with P3D before you actually try and land an Airbus. In some sense they're easier to land, in others they're not, but yeah, they're great aircraft for beginners. Yeah, the Airbus is great for beginners. So turn on to 330 now, and there you go, here's Gatwick coming into sight at 40 nautical miles, and it's actually more like 30, I'd say it's more like 30, yeah, so that's all good. And we've got all our messages appeared in the ECAM. So there's our original approach, which as you can see I deviated from and created my own vectors basically onto 26. So getting a little bit closer now, turn to 320, and any minute now the ILS is going to come alive. 310. There we go. And just to double check that your frequencies are in, if you go to radio, you can see we have our frequency and we have our course of 258. So here we are, and there is our actual waypoints where we're meant to be turning on if we did the 2,000 feet approach, and the sun is actually setting now, so that's interesting. Still holding on to daylight for a while though. Visibility's great, sky is great, it's generally looking like really good flying conditions for a landing. So turn it on to 300 now, and as you can see I'm sending out the approach quite a bit. This is so, one, I can explain everything that's going on, and two, so I can explain how to actually land the aircraft. So we've already got localizer on, so don't need to worry about missing the intercept heading. I'm just trying to make it less of a turn when we intercept the localizer. But the actual landing, it's relatively simple to start off. Or what you have to do is you're going to disconnect the autopilot around, if it's your first time, 1,500, 1,000 feet, and at that altitude you are going to take control, obviously, and you're going to use light movements on the controls to keep the centre line of the runway. Now how you do that, you want to keep the runway centre line slightly to the right of this button here, like you would do as you're taxiing, and you don't need to maintain speed. You still have the auto throttle, and you just idle those at 20 feet. It's when the aircraft calls retard. So turning on now to our final heading, and maybe we're too far out to establish on the localizer, but there we go nevertheless. Yeah, so once you retard the throttles, you're going to start pulling up the aircraft into a 5-degree flare, and and once the aircraft touches down, slowly lower those forward, and the aircraft will be decelerating, and you use your reverse thrusters on full. Spoilers will automatically deploy, and your auto brakes will activate. At 70 knots, you switch to manual braking by depressing the brake button once on your control axis, and then you'll be on manual braking, and you exit the runway at the nearest taxiway. So that can be a lot for your first time, but it's simpler than said, basically. So we are now on heading 259. Just turn that 1 degree out, and we've established on the localizer. So there you go. Localizer is alive now, and we've established on it. And I'm just to switch to approach mode. So when the glide slope comes alive, we can use that. So everything's good now. We're established on the localizer, and we're waiting for glide slope. That's all you need to know at the minute. Right, so we can get some cockpit lighting turned on if we want, but it's still light enough outside, so we don't need lighting at the minute. But if the pilots are flying this right now, I suspect I'll be wearing some shades, as it's probably quite bright. So, do we need to do anything in the panels? We just need to make sure TCAS is definitely on, which is, we can see all these triangles now are alive. Sorry, triangles, diamonds, they're just aircraft. That's probably flying in or out of Gatwick. And any company messages? Do we need to request landing data? Let's see. Approach ATIS. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what that does. I've literally discovered this today. It's pretty cool. I learned something new. That's just the ATIS report. And can we get anything else? Any other data? No, I don't think we can. Okay, that was cool. No, return. Maybe it might give. If I go init FP data, no. And it's the same as initialization reference. Now I was just reading the Aerosoft Airbus manual, and I think it was volume 1 on just general systems of the aircraft, and I actually discovered that little feature, so that was pretty cool. Didn't know that existed, and that's actually pretty useful if you don't want to keep things more realistic, instead of actually going up and using Active Skies system. It's built in here where you can select the weather and like that. So glide slope is now alive. See that little what is that? A little arrow shape at the top. That will soon turn into a diamond, because we're going to very quickly now get ourselves established on the glide slope. So I'm reduced speed to 200. Yeah. So sorry, just had to get the door. Just a parcel. Right. So yeah, we're at 240 knots now, and I'm just reduced my speed now to 220, and I am. I'm going to leave everything else for now, but as you can see, glide slope is moving down, so we're soon going to intercept the glide slope and start descending on a slope of the negative 3 degrees. So we can actually clear that now, and we can start getting ourselves configured for landing. Right, there's Gatwick up ahead there. We've got an aircraft off to our right. That's probably going to land in front of us. And I'm just reduced speed now to 200 knots. And once I've reduced the speed to 200 knots, I'm going to set flaps 1. Now flaps are, the indicated speed refs are on this little placard here provided by Aerosoft. It's probably in the real aircraft as well. It's just a rough indication of which speeds you should not surpass when using certain degrees of flaps. So I'm going to be using flaps 1, which is fine as we're not going faster than 230 knots. So there we go. And we have established on the glide slope. So I'm going to put my gear down at around 2,500 feet, or when radio altimeter comes alive, and that should all be good. I might get a warning. That's probably just on the PMG sent very soon. Yeah, it gives like this kind of very buzzing noise, which even if you're at perfectly safe altitude to have your gear up, it still likes to scream and shout at you. Airbus doesn't do that nicely. That's a nice little feature of the Airbus. Yeah. So we've got the runway in sight now. The scenery's just loading in, so I'll probably get a lag spike soon. Hopefully I don't get one on finals. As last time when I tried to record, my game literally froze on finals and I smashed it into the ground, and kind of just raged and quit, which was annoying, yeah. But I've decided to try the flight again. Now this is going to be no butter. This is trying to just show you how to get a centre line and how to get to standard landing, basically. So we're at 2,500 now. Gear can come down and reduce speed to 170 knots. Now, reducing speed, or as you might say, recycling speed, is a term used in aviation where once you're around 7 miles, you set speed to 170 knots, 6 miles 160, 5 miles 150, 4 miles 140, etc. until you get to VAP, or VRAF if you're in Boeing. But there we go, we can reduce our radius on the map to 10 miles, and we can set our altitude to go around altitude, which will be 3,000 feet, just in case we need to go around. I will not be doing go around, as I know, because I'm getting this aircraft on the ground. I don't want to complicate things. So we set flaps 2 now, and I'm going to recycle speed now to 150 knots. That is good, and I'm going to set flaps 3 now, and the runway and scenery is fully loaded, and we're coming up to 1,500 feet. Well, I'll disconnect the autopilot. So 1,400, 140 knots, flaps full, disconnecting the autopilot in 3, 2, 1, pilot 1 has control, and we're going to follow these 2 diamonds, these 2 pink diamonds, making sure they're in the centre of the line, until down to the runway. Now, as I'm talking and flying, it is probably going to not be the best approach in the world, but I'm doing my best. So I'm just going to keep speed alive for a little bit longer, and until at around 2 miles, then I'll set VAP speed. Just reduce. Actually, no, I'll set VAP now, so I don't have to worry about things. Because my descent rate is probably going to increase a lot. I'm going to have to use probably a lot of pitch to keep up in the air. So I'll account for that now. We're flying very slow. I really don't like landing slow, as 1, it can cause hard landings, and 2, you have to use a lot of pitch up motion to keep the aircraft not from falling out of the sky. Yeah, that's basically why I don't like slow landings. That's why I prefer to fly larger Airbus aircraft like the A320 and A321, but it's just something about the A319 that I love. On longer routes, the A318 it's very nice as well, especially on the London City to JFK. That's always a good route, especially when you're coming flat landing on London City, -5 degree slope. Right, so we have traffic on the runway. I'm just going to clear that now with UTC, and I'm going to talk you through the landing. So we're at 400 feet radio altimeter. Any minute now I'm going to get minimums call out. So I'll turn up my volume so you can hear it. You might be able to hear it through my speaker actually. So maintaining runway heading. I'm just keeping that centre line just to the right of that button there, and following along glide slope, looking at the pappies. Okay, decision height. Yep, we are continuing the landing. I can see my aiming point now, those two large rectangles, and following it down, we're on 2 greens, 2 reds, sorry, 2 whites, 2 reds,
50,
and 40, 30, 20,
retard, 10,
reducing throttle,
5,
flaring slowly, constantly increasing flare angle, touchdown, and we have that glitch at Gatwick where it presses down, and decel, full reverse thrust. Okay, 70 knots, manual braking, idle thrust, and exiting here. So reducing speed fully until we're below 35 knots. There we go, and we can taxi once we can exit the runway now, and we can begin our after landing checklist. So landing lights can come off now, runway turn-off lights can come off, nose light can be set to taxi, wing lights can come off, APU can set to on, and APU can be started. And we can take flaps up now, and we can close spoilers. Spoilers should already be closed actually, and there we go. So let's taxi to the gate now. So that landing there, yeah, I don't know why the Airbus does that. It's actually kind of starting to annoy me. The aircraft kind of sinks into the ground quite quickly. It's like almost as the gear kind of collapses a little bit. It's quite weird to explain, but you'll definitely be able to see it. I don't know if this was too much flare. If I try with a less flare, I'll see how things go. But flare angle shouldn't affect it. So I've just turned my volume down now, and let's taxi to the North Terminal. So there's an exit out on our left, which we'll take, and we'll park up at the gate. So as you can see, I started my APU here, and that's what you need once you shut down the engine. So before you shut down the engines, always make sure you have your APU started, and always make or some sort of power, even if you would connect ground power. I have had the APU fail to start a couple times. I don't know why. I honestly cannot explain it. I didn't program any failures, so it was kind of weird. But I just connected the ground power unit from the third MCDU, which is Shift F4, if you remember. So it says APU is available now, so I could shut down the engines at any point, still have power, which is great. And I don't need APU bleed on, as I'm not starting up the engines. So I'm just turn RLS off now, flight directors can come off, and as I'm approaching the gate, I'll just park up at one of these gates here. I'll make sure everything is fully good looking on the outside. Just give it an outside check. Yep, everything's fine on the outside, and I am going to get strobe lights turned off. I'll get my taxi lights turned off now, as I don't actually need them. And I'll keep my beacon lights on because they are used when you're starting up engines. So before you start up engines, you set beacon lights to on, and if the engines are running or the M1 is still quite high, which is basically I think it's the first engine blade, which I don't know what you call it, blade thing, suction, like blade, engine blades, what do you call it, first compressor, sorry, first stage of compressor, right, there you go. If that's still running, you still have to have your beacon lights on. So we'll leave the beacon lights on until our engines are fully shut down, M1 is below around 10%, then it should be safe for ground personnel to approach the aircraft. Well, that's what you do in real life. Anyway, so here we are, taxiing to gate, what is this, 555, not 666 today, so we're not gonna just simultaneously combust, so that's good. And let's start now. So parking brakes are set now, and shutting down engine 2, shutting down engine 1, and let's monitor N1. So M1 is below 10%, so we can switch. Beacon lights can come off now, nav lights can set to system 1, fuel pumps can come off, and we can get ground power units on the aircraft. So just simply go to connect external power, wheel chocks and traffic cones, switch to ground power, turn off APU, request to boarding. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just flown your first Airbus flight in the Aerosoft A320 series. So, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, hope it wasn't too complicating, and hope you had a fun time with your first flight. So, this is Jet2 Guy. See you in another video, whenever that is. Good night. So, there we go, minimums. Decision height has popped up on my primary flight display. And just following down the runway, looking for the aiming point, seeing it, calling 50, 40, 30, 20, and freeze, and oh god, why? No, just